Hello everyone, it's Jess Conto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film, and we're moving towards the end of the 19-teens on my journey through the filmography of John Ford with his 1919 film, By Indian Post. And yet again, as promised, I am joined by my wife Jess, who's on for another episode of Welcome to the Wasteland to talk about some John Ford. Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
And for those who have not tuned in to Welcome to the Wasteland before, we have 3 segments, starting with our coming attractions for the week of release, which this episode is releasing July 7th. So jumping into the second half of the year, and then we have our feature, which is By Indian Post, and then some recommendations for you. Now, this opening weekend in July, there's a mix of some small indie films, some Netflix stuff, some documentaries, and 2 big releases, one of which is Jess's pick for coming attractions. The other is Insidious: The Red Door. But Jess, what is your pick?
I would never recommend Insidious because I'm a huge baby.
I'm not looking forward to getting the crap scared out of me.
I'm a huge diaper baby with demons. I can't do it. Anyway, I'm looking forward to Joyride. Shane had a very high opinion of it. Seems quite fun. So
it's raunchy, it's hilarious, and I laughed a lot, and even got a little emotional towards the end of the film as well. It's about 4 Asian American friends who bond over a crazy trip to Asia, and it's I think a lot of people will be talking about one particular scene in all the trailers where they pretend to be a K-pop band. I'm not going to tell you what they sing. I'm leaving that for all of you to check out in the movie. But yeah, Joyride was a lot of fun, so I definitely second that coming attraction. Mine is, I'm a big fan of documentaries. I know you are also a big fan of documentaries.
I do. I like a good documentary.
I'm a big fan of baseball. So I'm looking forward to The League, which is about the Negro Leagues, and it's definitely going to be a very interesting perspective as somebody who's been a fan of Major League Baseball his whole life, and still them not acknowledging Negro League statistics in Major League Baseball, and basically, you know, they were just somewhere else. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of portrait of this era of baseball this film puts together. And a quick second recommendation for Alex Winter from Bill and Ted's new documentary, The YouTube Effect, because that could only be something that's going to feel uncomfortably real and relatable, so we'll see how that goes. But getting into our feature of the week, which is By Indian Post, and this is a 1919 film. It is a short film. It is only 20 minutes in its entirety, but unfortunately, the only version of this film that's left is incomplete, as we watched a 13-minute condensed version of the film, which I do feel like we got the whole picture for the most part.
I don't know.
I feel like there
extended cut would do.
I feel like there were some moments that might have. There probably was some things that filled in some gaps narratively about the film, which is centered on a young man who loves a young woman, but her dad runs this ranch, and he's not happy. This young man writes a love letter, and the love letter is stolen.
Oh.
And then he is captured and imprisoned, and all he wants to do is get out and get married to the woman he loves. And that's all in 13 minutes.
Yep.
So, Jess, what are your general thoughts on By Indian Post?
Well, it's fine. I mean, problematic depiction of Native Americans, but I feel like that's become a theme with John Ford.
Well, actually, that is our first film on here so far that has some very outwardly problematic look at Native American people. So
yeah, I'm not optimistic for the rest of them, to be honest.
Well, so let's check that off on our bingo boards of
John Ford.
Because the title of By Indian Post turns out to be because a Native American woman steals the love letter and delivers it to the young woman, and the language that this Native American woman speaks with on the
extremely
the word card is
it's like me find letter, me deliver letter to
whatever.
It's like
Michael Bay and two of the pair of Transformers that are supposed to sound like they're black people, and just very insensitive,
very unsexy.
Except that's in like the 21st century.
Yeah, we're not going to make any Michael Bay
1919.
excuses. Well, we're not excusing John Ford either, but
No, well, and the thing is, it's like obviously Native Americans were not treated very well in westerns in most of the
Westerns, I would say until like modern day. Probably.
Which it took like Marlon Brando to try to make a statement at the Oscars, which even caused
Sacheen Littlefeather, yeah.
Which caused
John Wayne, my favorite, wanted to fight her.
Yep.
For masculinity.
Because how dare she say badly about my westerns?
I feel like John Wayne subsisted only on how big he was, and it'd take like one swift kick to the shin to just run away from him. He smoked a lot.
Well, we know who really made John Wayne cower like a little baby, and it was John Ford.
Bigger John.
But yeah, so like this film, some of the things that stood out to me, like they had some fun little horse tricks at the beginning, and then they have like the horse stunt of horse stunts, which is jumping off the roof of a building and landing on a horse. So check that off of our.
That's hard to train.
Check that off of our Western bingo board as well, because like that's the first time that it's happened in one of the films that we've watched so far. And like the most action in this movie is one when the letter is stolen, the guy like flips over a bunch of bunk beds and like freaking out.
Yeah, he goes on a little bit of a rampage, which was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, that was enjoyable. And then him rolling around on the floor with the dad. So like there's not a ton of action here, but there's some slapstick, there's some physical comedy that goes along. Fight,
but they were rolling around, man.
They were rolling around like two.
Hog-tie him?
Yes, they hog-tie him. And there was a funny little gag where the one guy's smoking a cigarette and offers it to the guy, and he just pulls it away slowly and then just like pushes him back.
That's so rude.
So like there's some funny moments in this, but at the core of it, it's a forbidden love story type film, and
Rancher's daughter again.
Yep. Those ranchers' daughters. And it ends with the two of them getting married at the end.
Abducts a person.
And rides off. Yes. Grabs somebody who can marry them right out of bed.
Grabs a person.
Picks them up.
He's in his PJs, but it's like, it's daytime.
Yeah.
I don't know why this guy was sleeping. Like, he's in like old-timey PJs.
Or maybe they can't shoot at night and we're just supposed to pretend that it was...
It's really bright, though. I mean, maybe you're right.
There is.
I was just like, why is he asleep? Everyone else is up doing work.
But yeah, and like one other like early thing that I didn't expect to see in the film, because like this is one of the earliest things that I've seen. This is one of those like really close-up shots of somebody choking somebody in a movie. Yeah. And you have you have Inglourious Bastards, which that's so messed up to begin with that Quentin Tarantino wanted his specific hands choking Diane Kruger. And then One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which like Jack Nicholson was actually choking Louise Fletcher, because it was the 70s and you lived the roles. And this was interesting because it was the first time you really see that in like a movie.
BoJack. It's not live action, but I was uncomfortable.
Yes. And these weren't like fun chokings. This was not.
No, it was non-consensual.
These were non-consensual, and
Choke me, daddy.
I feel like this film is brisk, to the point, has like its story that it's trying to tell, has some laughs along the way, and a couple of like early cinema things that you probably hadn't seen yet up to that point that we see all the time now. But it's interesting to kind of see some of the earlier examples of these in film. But Jess, do you have any other thoughts about By Indian Post?
Nope.
So you can check this out on YouTube in its 13 minutes, reduced version. And it would be interesting to try to figure out where pieces of the film were missing. But, like, besides the logic on, like, why the Native American woman did the whole thing, I don't think there was really anything missing from the story. So maybe it was worth an edit. And then she cut it down anyway, so there you go.
Maybe it's just how it was meant to be.
It could have been. Now, our last segment on Welcome to the Wasteland is recommendations. And Jess, what would you like to recommend and why is it Bluey?
It's not Bluey. I recommend learning how to do basic home maintenance tasks. I recaulked part of the shower. It ain't pretty, but it works. And also replaced the furnace filter.
There you go.
So go on YouTube. There's specifically what is it, your dad or whatever, is a guy that like teaches you all the stuff that your dad didn't teach you, or couldn't teach you. So firm recommend on learning what home maintenance tasks you might need to do and get better at caulking. And also don't get the Gorilla brand. I figured out the problem was that the back blew out when I was squeezing it, so it wasn't coming through the tip. Get a decent caulk gun.
And if you want another recommendation related to home repairs, Mandatory Fun by Weird Al Yankovic and the single Handy.
It's a great tie-in.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks.
Jess would still like to talk to you about Bluey. So
I feel like there's a lot of people convincing everyone to watch Bluey.
From what I saw, it's a really enjoyable show.
I cry almost every time I watch it. It's just very emotional.
So there you go. And my recommendation is a film that I will be doing for my 60th episode of Rowan in the Wasteland with my buddy Rowan. And we'll have a very special guest on for that particular episode. I won't spoil that here. But we are going to be talking about Greener Grass, which is a strange comedy thriller.
Satire, I guess.
It's a very interesting satirical look at suburban life, suburban moms, soccer moms. Everything is fluorescent, just like bright colors. And this is from writers, directors, and stars Jacqueline DeBoer and Dawn Lube. And these two are fantastic at the core of the film. And this movie made me laugh harder than I've laughed watching a movie in a while. And this is from 2019. It is available on AMC Plus. So, but just make sure to have AMC Plus as an Amazon channel, not the actual app, because it's a giant piece of shit. Because it's the worst streaming service ever. So I would anti-recommend getting AMC Plus as an actual streaming service. Just get it on Amazon. But this is such a funny, weird, and it goes places, especially towards the end, but it definitely has a very interesting look at suburban life, especially in a time where that's not really destined for us anymore, as we all live in apartments and townhomes for the rest of our lives because we can't afford homes. The weirdest stuff happens in this. Little kid turns into a dog.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it for them.
I didn't say who turned into a dog. There's just some weird stuff that goes on in this movie, and I'm sure I'll be thinking about it toward the ending of it and what it all really means, but all these people are really creepy and have braces and kiss the wrong husbands and stuff like that, and they get really up and close when people kiss each other to the point where, like, saliva is, like, strung across their lips. Yeah, it makes you feel really uncomfortable.
Making me relive it.
Yep. Jess is feeling all the details all over again. But those are some recommendations from us, and that's a wrap here on Welcome to the Wasteland. But Jess, thank you so much for coming on, and this will be her last appearance for at least like a month and a half until I bring her back on here again.
Unlock me from the basement. Let me back up. It's not true, we don't have a basement.
Yes, because that's the problem with that statement that you made. But thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.